Hey, fraud and audit, friends and family. I got a question for you today. Have you ever heard something so juicy that it was just finger licking good? Well, if you haven't, stick around today because we've got a story for you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com.
All right, so you heard the question that I asked. Have you ever seen a story that was so juicy that it was just finger licking good? If so, tell us what it is. What did you see that was finger licking good? Because boy, we've got one for you today. We surely have. So I'm just gonna bring her up. Christine.
Hey, it's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah, it's been a very long time. For those of you who don't know, so Christine and I were just in Denver, Colorado at Joe's fraud retreat. And that was a fun time.
It was awesome. Like, I love the presenters. Like, I came back to work and everybody's like, how was it? I'm like, we had Tipper X. I mean, the way that Tipper opened up, loved it. And pardon me, I think it was Javier that talked about, was it Javier that talked about AI and audit? No. Who was it? Anyways, we talked about auditing and using artificial intelligence. What? We're looking at that for options. So there was so much to take from that. Yeah, I loved it.
What was your favorite part? What was your absolute most favorite part if you had to pick one?
Okay, so I really enjoyed Elizabeth's. I thought it was a great difference in presenting audit, being inclusive with people that you work with that have disabilities. I really enjoyed hers. I think there was just so many of them. I think the one that I was most shocked about was Cynthia Cooper's, because I think I wasn't expecting it to go that way. And I think it really did open up your eyes to the impact that whistleblowers actually go through. So the negative impact that can happen to them and how it's a mind game. It is literally a mind game for those that are trying to be the good people and bring people to justice, and how that can be a big impact on yourself. So no, I think it was great. I think Joel and all of the people that helped her do the planning. I loved Haley's pig butchering. I mean, I could just go on. I could probably talk about it for 3 days.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a fun time. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, it is the fraud retreat. Amanda Jo Irvin has it in Denver, Colorado every year around the first Thursday and Friday in August. If you have never been, you're missing out. You need to go. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people that were here. You see, Elizabeth is here and she's dancing today.
It was Trent
Yes,
that
it was
talked
Trent.
about AI. Yes.
Now, Cheryl is saying,
we're looking at that for options.
yeah, Cheryl is saying that Cynthia Cooper is what did it for her. And Karina is here. Stephanie is here from Idaho. And Marina is here from Sunnyvale, California. Okay, so listen, guys. You heard what I said earlier. Have you ever had a situation that was just so juicy it was kind of finger licking good? So, Christine, you've been in banking for a while. What's the juiciest thing that you had to investigate or that you've seen that you can actually talk about?
Oh, I can, because it made the papers. So it was my first exam as a DFI examiner. And we found 1.7 million missing from the vault.
Ooh, Now that's pretty bad. Hey, listen, I'm gonna switch internet again really, really quickly because the one that I'm on now is lagging. I'm looking on LinkedIn and I'm like, oh, that quality just sucks.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm good. But yeah, no, my first exam, we were doing accounting and there were just some high level red flags. And, doing audit, you don't know if you should be going down that rabbit hole or not. But there were enough red flags in the beginning that we decided to go down that hole. And no, we were able to uncover it. So that was a pretty exciting first exam. Came home and my dad asked how work was. And it's fine. Couldn't say anything. So it came out in the news probably about 3 weeks after that. So
Now that's pretty juicy, especially considering I didn't hear hardly any of it because my internet was reconnecting.
I was talking about like there were some certain red flags. And as an auditor, sometimes it's hard because you don't know if you want to go down a rabbit hole and get stuck in there. But there was enough that, yeah, we ended up doing a cash count, which you normally don't do. And I said the hardest part was going home from work that day because I had just moved back to live with family from another state. So we were living with my parents at the time. And my dad was just like, oh, so how was work today? And I'm like, oh, it was fine. Because you can't say anything because then there'd be a run on deposits.
Yep.
And it came out in the newspaper about 3 weeks later. I came home from work and I remember my dad slamming the newspaper down and going, so you had a great day at work that day, huh? I'm like, well, I couldn't say anything because the newspaper article did disclose that it was due to a DFI exam. So,
Oh wow. Now, for anyone who's ever been to any of my trainings, you've heard some stories, and so there's some doozies. But I'll tell you, there's this one that really, really gets me. So I was working for an organization that had a cafeteria, and we got some interesting correspondence from some of the cafeteria workers accusing some of the other cafeteria workers of stealing food,
okay.
specifically stealing food around holidays. So
Like when you mean steal, are you mean like they didn't pay for the extra side or they're taking a whole tray of food?
I mean, they're taking whole cases of food like inventory. so 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 we walk in to talk to the food services manager, and I just ask, hey, where's your inventory log? And he looks at me and he's like, well, I don't really have an inventory. And I'm thinking, how are you running some sort of a food establishment without adequate inventory?
Mm-hmm.
And so he tells me he's been doing this for so long that he just has a gut feeling of when he needs to reorder food. And I'm
Okay.
like, well, that kind of doesn't make any sense. Now, I'm just going to cut a long story short so we can get into today's story. But what ended up happening was we found out that his people definitely were stealing. And I'll tell you, this is one way that we found out. One of them had a catering business that she would advertise on Facebook.
I mean, okay. Let me guess, it was the exact same food brand too.
It was-
Were the
Oddly
cafeteria
enough,
week specials her specials?
oddly enough, she was mostly taking chicken wings.
Are you kidding me?
I kid you not.
We haven't even talked about the story yet this week.
Yeah, which dovetails right into this week's story. Now, Christine, I will say, story we actually covered before, but there's an I was so, but I don't think anybody.
You're
again.
glitching. You're glitching. I didn't hear anything you said.
Oh, this is terrible.
I'm guessing you said something about chicken.
This is absolutely horrendous. Can you hear me now?
You're glitching again. I think you're
Oh,
back. I think you're back now.
okay. I'm back now. This is absolutely horrendous. What I said was we covered the story before. I think it
Mhm.
was before you joined the pod, but I don't think anybody will mind hearing it again.
Go for it.
So, friends, this week, there are also some updates to the story too, but this week, a former food services director for a school district was sentenced to prison for stealing more than $1 million worth of chicken wings that were billed to the district but never given to students.
$1.5 million in chicken. Wonder how much that would
One
approximately
and a
weigh.
half million. Oh, that's it. That's an interesting question. How much would it weigh? They're saying that she stole more than 11,000 cases.
Oh, Google's not helping me out. Maybe I should use AI, as Trent suggests.
Okay, so listen, the massive fraud started during COVID when the kids were at home, but the school district was still feeding them. You know how some districts will still send food to the kids that were at home? So she started stealing the chicken during COVID. And what she would do was she was responsible for the she was responsible for ordering the food. She was responsible for doing the inventory. She was the manager, so she was responsible for it all. And she would make the order, and the supplier just thought it was the regular school order. But she would go to the location and actually pick up the items that she was stealing. So they never even made it to the school and never even made it to the students. And
Oh,
somebody's saying that's an insane amount of chicken, right?
it is. Let me see. What was I gonna be? All right, I will go to Chat GPT.
Okay, so it gets even better. Apparently, she was hired as a consultant in July of 2020 for the school district. And from July of 2020 to February of 2022, they're saying she engaged in a pervasive embezzlement scheme. So she was hired as a consultant. And Karina is asking, where was the segregation of duties? There were none. I, I mean, that is exactly why I titled it this. This is definitely clucked up. I mean,
So is that why you were saying, like, so she was the one that had the catering business? Or are we assuming that?
oh, I'm just assuming. I'm assuming that if she stole $1.5 million worth of chicken, it wasn't to feed her friends and family. I'm assuming she had a catering business or she sold the chicken raw to another business like a restaurant or something for pure profit.
Ooh, I never even thought about that. That's the best way to unload that chicken.
Yeah, yeah, because the vendor is a it's a reputable vendor. The vendor that they bought it from, I can't think of the name of the vendor now. Hold on, I could tell you. I'll tell you in just a minute. Probably, possibly, maybe, but but the vendor is a reputable food vendor that, if I can find the name, is one that we've got. Gordon Food Services.
So she sold it to Gordon Food Services?
No, no, no. That's the vendor where she ordered
Oh,
it from.
okay.
So
I
I
was
guess
gonna say, like, I know that.
my point in that though was if Gordon had any kind of branding on the boxes and she attempted to sell them to someone else, it looks like it's coming from a reputable vendor, and so no one would actually question that.
No, I could see that. Yeah, because I think Gordon is here in Wisconsin too. I mean, I'm guessing
Yeah.
they're all around the US, but um, yeah.
Yeah, Gordon is everywhere. Everywhere you want to be. So what she would do is she would order them from Gordon. She would go and pick them up in one of the school's vans and then take them wherever she wanted to. Now, here's how she got caught though. There was an audit. So hooray for audits, right? There was an audit around January of 2022. So 2.5 years later. And the district's business manager discovered that the food service department had already surpassed its annual budget by $300,000.
So that $300,000 is a lot over a school food budget. I did Copilot, which is an AI function. How much does $1.5 million in chicken weigh? I find this really funny. So 1.5 million worth of chicken would weigh in today's dollar, if it was $1.96 per pound, 765,306 pounds. And then it goes, that's a lot of chicken. Even the AI generator knows that's a lot. It goes, that's a lot of chicken. Is there anything else you'd like to know?
Wow.
And it did a chicken
Wow.
emoji. It did a little chicken head next to it.
Wow.
Well,
Wow.
let's see. I'm going to.
Okay, so she was sentenced to 9 years in prison for this $1.5 million fraud scheme. And Christine is like, go ahead, say it. Oh, Karina, that was funny. Karina, she's cooked. Oh, oh, yeah. Was that wholesale or retail? I don't know. I'm guessing wholesale. I don't know.
I think $1.96 per pound would have to be wholesale. I can't get chicken per pound that cheap right around here and today. But would it have been $2 a pound back then? Probably, because the cost of everything was so much. I don't know. I guess I don't think anybody remembers really what happened during COVID.
True. Very true. Okay, so now she was sentenced to 9 years in prison, and she was ordered to pay restitution.
Mm-hmm.
Her attorney argued that she can't afford to pay restitution.
I'm guessing she can't either if she's stealing chicken to make money.
That's kind of what I'm guessing too. Now, to make matters worse or more interesting, however you want to put this happened in Kansas City, and the Kansas City Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones offered to cover the $1.5 million worth of chicken wings. And all the news reports, especially one in the USA Today, say in order to free the former food services employee. I didn't know that was how it worked.
I don't think he knows that. This isn't a bond hearing. Now, if he wants to pay her restitution, that's on him, but she's sentenced. Now,
Right.
you normally don't see me being like this, so maybe, I don't know. I feel like 9 years is a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen people that have stolen around the same amount of money, have been more blatant manipulative in what they've done, and they've gotten like 4 or 5 years. And they're younger than her.
Yeah, yeah.
I know you normally don't
I
hear that from me.
I must admit the 9 years shocked me too. Let me ask you guys that are listening. Does 9 years seem like a lot of years for $1.5 million fraud of stealing chicken wings? Is that it just seems like a real clucked up situation, but okay, so Cheryl is with us. She said Cheryl thought it was a lot too. Yeah, yeah.
All right. So to put it into perspective, the case that I was talking about, 1.7 million that went missing, the woman had to pay $800,000 in restitution. She only had to serve 3 years in prison with 3 years supervised release. And part, which I agree with this one definitely, part of her $800,000 restitution is she is not allowed to get a loan from a federally insured financial institution until that's paid back.
Okay, yeah.
She can't even take a loan out, a personal loan out from a bank or a credit union until that restitution is paid back.
Wow.
So they were only able to tie back 800,000. So you're looking at like $700,000 more than this. But she got 3 years. And she was falsifying documents. She was forging signatures on balancing documents.
Wow.
So I see how I don't know, maybe that's why I feel like it's excessive.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's a lot. Now, I will say, on the other hand, I think that it's a little ludicrous to volunteer to pay someone's restitution for a crime like that. And here's so I've seen quite a few crimes throughout my career, and there have been some people where I actually felt bad for the criminal, um, because you could see that they were struggling trying to feed a family or something like that. She clearly had a job,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the amount that she took was extremely excessive because she'd only done it for 2 years and had $1.5 million worth of inventory. I mean, if we split that, that's $700,000 per year on top of your job. So now her attorney also disclosed that she had a gambling problem.
Okay. Well, and I know I felt bad for that one woman who, oh, she was embezzling from her employer though, but she had a huge opioid addiction. She
Yeah,
was the one that they said like her addiction was costing her $3,000 a day. And remember,
yeah,
she was the one that the family came out and was like, she's a good person. We know that she has issues, but we're there for her. And it's like, I think I felt bad for her because I'm like, why weren't you there for her when you knew she had the problem? To prevent from
wait.
this happening. Oh,
Who is this? Talking about very foul. They're showing up as LinkedIn users, so I'm gonna have to cheat and see who they.
I'm refreshing. That's Stephanie.
Oh, it's Stephanie. Okay.
I'm just waiting for us talking about all these fraud people, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, birds of a feather, flock
I was
together."
waiting on that one too. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Oh, that's hilarious. But yeah, I so okay. If you've just joined us, we're talking about a real clucked up situation right now. A woman stole $1.5 million of chicken, and she was sentenced to 9 years and restitution. A professional football player has offered to pay the restitution, but all the news articles say he offered to pay it to set her free. Not really how that works. She's been sentenced, but it was 9 years. And so we've been having a discussion because that seems like a lot of years for the crime, considering there are a lot of people who stole even more. Wait, how many years did Elizabeth Holmes get? And her company was $4 billion debacle.
Why do I feel
Um,
like it was
I
only
think,
like 11, wasn't it?
yeah, I think it
11
was
plus
11
years.
years.
Yep.
Yeah.
On- I do find it a little okay. So it's not that like she was ordering above and beyond because I did notice this. Um, so the person who caught her discovered individual invoices signed by Liddell for massive quantities of chicken wings. This is your easiest red flag sign on this next one. An item that is never served to students because they contain bones.
Yep.
Like for 3 years. It's telling me nobody was looking at the invoices behind the ordering.
Yep.
And
So
how did
I'll
they
tell
not
you.
notice they were over budget before the 3 years? Wouldn't you think that that would have started hitting over budget that first year? Because you said what was it, 700,000 a year?
Yep. You would think so. Um, my guess is it was COVID and they weren't paying attention in 2020 and probably not even in 2021 because it was COVID, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I always sit here and try to think like auditor wise, right? But then we have to look at monetary threshold, right? So if you've got your financial examiners that take a look at the books every single year, right? Are they even going to question it if it's not that monetary threshold? And is it just the district's business manager, right? Was it for one school or was it for district wide?
Oh yeah, I think she was ordering for the district. I did look that up and from what I could discern, because nobody outright said it, but she was the buyer for the district, not
Okay.
one school. So I'm assuming it was for the district. But here's what's really interesting. And I hate to say it like this, but I find that school districts, they are very interesting when it comes to controls. So the school district that I went to as a kid, they had a scandal about 4 years ago. And the external auditors are the ones who found it, but it was so egregious. You should have found it within the first year. I mean, so a friend and I, we downloaded some publicly available data. And then we did a FOIA request just to run it through some data analytics. And the alarm started going off immediately. But they had millions of dollars that were being stolen from various schools throughout the district.
Okay, because that's what I was wondering. If they're combining those school districts into one financial, it's going to be easier to conceal.
Yeah, because normally each school has its own budget and you manage your own individual budget and then it rolls back up usually at your district office for school districts of some size, right? So, but yeah, now Jay is wondering, does this Friday Froster qualify as a chick flick?
I mean, it
I,
could.
I mean, it definitely could. But wait, so okay, let's go back to the whole. You're gonna pay the $1.5 million. That's just the restitution. That's not to get her out of jail. But
No.
here's what I found really interesting about it. Um, again, I I could kind of understand if she had a family that she needed to feed and they were just in dire straits, down and out. Well, I still couldn't totally understand then, right? Because you got shelters and other things that you can go to. But $1.5 million is fairly egregious. And I just started thinking, okay, look, if you really wanted to help some people out, what's the minimum wage now, Christine? Isn't it like 7.25 or something like that?
I think yes. So federal, yes.
Okay. So federal minimum wage at $7.25 an hour. If you took that and say had someone who was working 40 hours a week annually making minimum wage, that $1.5 million could help out approximately 100 people for a whole year.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, Marsha. It's about the lady. Marsha's asking, is today's chat about the lady who stole the chicken wings? It is definitely about the lady who stole the chicken wings. And I said earlier, we did this story before. However, she has now been sentenced, and we had a professional football player come forward and offer to pay the $1.5 million. The other thing, too, is, you know, we've just faced a tumultuous time, and we're going into another one because we are in a recession. I don't care what anybody tells you. Look at the metrics. So we got people out here who are really, really suffering and struggling. Heck, just 4 or 5 years ago, I was homeless. So what the heck? If you really want to help people who are actually trying to do good and help other folks too. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a little disappointed at the offer to pay this restitution. And she had a gambling problem. Get her some help. Let her go to Gamblers Anonymous or something. But I do think 9 years is a lot, though.
Yeah. Do you think he knows her from somewhere? So I guess this is the reason why I'm thinking about that. So this happened in Illinois, 20 miles south of Chicago. He's playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not like this is a big news article, I'm guessing, where he's playing out of, unless he is originally from Illinois.
You know, you're right. I said earlier it happened in Kansas City, but you're right. It happened right outside of Chicago. Uh, huh.
Oh, I gotta look up her name quick.
Let's see here. So they're saying that there's no indication that he knows her based on some of the news articles I've looked at, but just he's offered to pay. That's a very good question.
Yeah, it says he doesn't personally know her. However, he recently made headlines by offering. People are still unsure if Jones's offer was a gesture to help her or if he'll actually follow through if it was a serious proposal.
Yeah, but I mean, even if he does pay it, she's still got 9 years to do.
And you and I might disagree on this. I'm sitting here going, if he wants to pay it, by all means, go for it. It's not going to get her out early. You know what I'm saying? And it's only going to get the school district its money back, which there is 1,600 kids between 6 schools, and 80% of them are already low income.
Yep.
So if it gets the money back into the school district, I'm going to sit here and go for it. I don't care about that. She's sitting and doing her time. But I agree, 9 years is a little excessive.
Now, I'm definitely with you on that. If he wants to pay it, it does help the school district. I just am amazed at all the news stories and the way that they're written, and I'm hoping that maybe there was some journalistic spin on it, and that he and possibly his team don't actually believe that that would get her out. But yeah, I do agree it would 100% help the school district.
I just hope he's not doing it for a publicity stunt. And I do not know this gentleman. I do not follow sports. I don't know what type of a person he is. I am that person that a lot of times when celebrities and stuff say stuff, I always have that thing going on in the back of my head is this a publicity stunt?
So that was the other thing I was wondering too, right? Is this just being done for attention? Because if you look at it, it is some pretty good attention for the Kansas City Chiefs at this point, and possibly for him, because now he could be seen as this empathetic individual who wants to help out criminals. Maybe I don't know.
Let me see. Well, let's see if he's had any negative. He's generally maintained a positive reputation. And then he had a couple of like penalty calls, but he hasn't had anything like major. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So
So he seems to be.
it's on the field, but nothing. It's not like he had like a drunk driving or abuse allegations or anything like that, that he would have to try and do this to reverse a negative perception by the public.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So, if you're just joining us, we are talking about a young woman, well, an older woman who has recently been sentenced to 9 years for stealing $1.5 million worth of chicken from a school district. She purchased the chicken with the school's funds, went and picked the chicken up, and it never made it back to the school. She did it for about 2 years, and now that she's been sentenced, an NFL football player has offered to pay the $1.5 million restitution. Christine said that it's great if he pays it, if he wants to, because it gets the school its money back. I agree with that, but I'm also questioning why. Apparently, she has a gambling problem. So hopefully, someone will actually help her kick that problem so that when she gets out, she doesn't get in any trouble again for the sake of gambling.
Well, and here's me being a negative Nancy. If she's in there for 9 years, she's already 68. She'll get out when she's 77. So her capability of paying back that restitution is, I'm going to say it's probably nil, because I don't think they can pull restitution out of your Social Security checks. I honestly don't think they can do that. I'd have to double check that, but I know it's like a protected income. And she's going to be old enough. She's not going to want to get a second job. Like, for her, it's going to be pointless.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, I mean, we gotta say the hard thing. She may not make it out of prison.
Right. I mean, do I hope she can get out? Like, if they sat there and said there's a chance she could get out in 5 years for good behavior, I could sit here and go, okay, 5 years to me is reasonable.
Yeah.
Because when was she sentenced?
I want to say it was this year. Let me
Do
take
you
a
think
look.
her attorney will try to come back and challenge the sentencing because of her age? Can they do that?
I mean, I think they can appeal. Um, but you would have thought that he or she would have brought that up this time too. And it makes me wonder who was the judge and what was the judge thinking and what was the judge's thought process behind it. Um, Now, Marsha is saying, wait, did I get it? Nope. Marsha's saying he's just giving and maybe he's relating to her as he would to his mother. Probably so, but I mean, this is pretty egregious, like pretty egregious. And I think this might be Stephanie. I wonder if she didn't show remorse and mouthed off to the judge. That's what I was kind of getting at. Like I'm wondering, like who was the judge? Because that's a lot. Like that's a whole lot of time. Yeah, and Cheryl was right there with us. Something must have happened. Um, Maybe he
I'm gonna.
didn't like her. And so what I started thinking was maybe the judge was tougher because it was against the school district. And the judge was like, hey, these are children. Because that happens, right? So maybe that had something to do with it.
Do you think it would be the county prosecutor? No, that would be the prosecutor. Oh my gosh, judge.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, $1.5 million could have gone, and I don't want to tell anybody how to spend their money. I'm just doing a comparison. But it could have helped 100 families that survived on minimum wage for 1 year.
Yeah. And it was on average, I think it was 900, and what she stole was an equivalent of $937 per student that was in that county.
Wow. You know what? Okay, wait. You said it was what, $937 per student?
Yep, because at that time they had about 1,600 kids registered over the 6 schools. So it was almost $1,000 a student.
So here's what's interesting about that. The the average spend nationally as of the education data from the US Public Education Spending Statistic for 2024 is that the average spending per pupil in a K through 12 school is $17,000 per year.
But I'm guessing that's including more than just school service. Like that's more than just the lunch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is total. This is total.
So I'm putting this into based on what I pay for my children's. So if we put that into monetary, so for each student, she essentially stole 1.5 year worth of school lunch from them for each student.
Yeah.
So, and that's for a whole lunch. So I pay about $3.25 for a hot lunch for each one of my kids. So that would be the equivalent of just over 1.5 years. If you applied it to the 180 days they attend school, that would be 1.5 school years of lunches for each one of those kids is what was taken.
So let's compare that to the total cost per year to educate a student. That is approximately 5.3% of the total cost to educate one student.
Mm-hmm. And I know because I've seen things come across social media that people are like, oh, well, if teachers just taught 10 students at home for a year, it'd be so much cheaper. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want one person trying to teach my high schooler calculus and geometry and science. Like, and it's more than that. You're talking about extracurricular activities, band. I mean, there's stuff that the schools pay for, art materials, not gym uniforms, but I mean, there's so much that goes into that. So I know $17,000 sounds like a lot for one student. It does.
Yeah, no, I didn't think it sounded like a lot. It's about right. Yeah. Now, Marsha's saying judges give harsh sentences because they don't necessarily like you, not necessarily evidence based. And Jay is saying chicken wings weren't even on the school's menu, should have been caught before. Yeah, exactly. And Cheryl is hitting the point. She's done school audits and she thinks that they should have caught it more quickly too. Yeah. And from what I've seen, and it's quite interesting to watch, people just kind of do their job and then they might have one budget person back at the district headquarters that has to manage and monitor quite a few schools, and they just don't use data analytics a whole lot. Most of them that I've seen, and some that I've actually talked to, we used to try and sell our audit services to some school districts, but they felt like they didn't really need it. And many of the bigger school districts actually have auditors. So, that helps.
Well, and I mean, I agree with Sherry, it should have been caught more quickly. I think sometimes experience definitely helps out. So an example is, let's say Sherry does the school audits and it was one of the schools that her kids go to. She might sit here and go, well, I know that they don't offer chicken wings. And it's something so simple and trivial. Like, well, I know they don't have chicken wings on the menu because I look at the monthly food schedule that comes out, it's no different than with the case that I talked about when you introduced me. It was simply how they were counting their cash isn't how it comes in from the Fed, which was an alert. Do you know what I'm saying? So sometimes some of those littlest tiny details that one person would sit here and go, this doesn't make sense, and somebody else doesn't realize it. And it also makes me wonder, because we had it here in Wisconsin too, is that they did state that they were still offering food. So the parents could come to the school, pick up the lunches. We had that here. So was it a potential that there could have been a slight increase in the food usage? Because I know our schools weren't validating that they were active students that were coming and getting those free lunches during COVID.
Ah.
Like they just put it out there and said, if you're having a hard time feeding your child, we have bagged lunches that we're preparing as part of our food budget. And their only rule is that it was like a drive-through. So you had to come through and you had to tell them how many bagged lunches you needed. And then they just handed the bagged lunches to you.
Now that
Through
is
four.
interesting. Now, here's where it gets interesting because Stephanie has brought up something that, well, let's talk about it. She said, if it was a low income school, the funds were likely federal and may have attributed to the 9 years. So there's something called Title One. If you are a Title One school, that means that most of your students are low income. And what happens is the government, federal government, will actually allocate funds to the state to give to those Title One schools. And oftentimes, what you'll see happen is, so like, okay, when I was young, you had people who were on free lunch, reduced lunch, and then full lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, if you were on free lunch, people would make fun of you and stuff like that. They would call you poor because kids are cruel and they bully a little bit sometimes. It's just what
Yeah.
happens in life. What many of the Title One schools have done, from what I've seen, is they will take that money and just give every student in the school free lunch. And they do it under the guise of breaking down that bully barrier so that people don't get made fun of. So
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie's point is 100% legit. Um, if it was a low income school and they received Title One funds, that may have attributed to the harsh sentence.
That's true. That's Stephanie again.
Okay, so she was on free lunch. Yeah. Yeah.
I know at our school for the free lunch, I don't think kids know now because it's just like they use their student ID card and just scan it. So the kids should know what they can and can't get. It's essentially you get to pick one of the lunches. If you are on free lunch, you just can't add the a la carte items.
Ah,
Now, there is the option as well. You can still get your free lunch and then parents can put money on your account. So you still get your free lunch and then your kids still can get a la carte items.
doesn't that kind of sound like prison? And I'm
It does. But I feel like the Cartwells, yeah, I'm calling you guys out, makes their money on the cost of the a la carte. Because
Yep.
like my son gets one or two cookies for $1.50. And I'm like,
Yeah, and Jay says literally stealing food from the mouths of children during a global unemployment crisis by one who has sufficient income and then she gambles it away. Definite enhanced sentence. Yeah, because it was just odd. And so Cheryl says Minnesota provides free breakfast and lunch to all students now. One reason I love living here. Yeah.
I will agree with you, Sherry, 110%.
Yeah. It's so if you are just joining us, we're talking about a clucked up situation where a young woman, older woman, sorry, stole $1.5 million in mostly chicken wings from a school district, and she has just been sentenced to 9 years. And a Kansas City Chiefs football player has volunteered to pay the $1.5 million, but at this point, it's restitution. It won't stop her from going to jail,
Which
unfortunately.
then I don't think it should.
Yeah, it shouldn't. Well, oh, and by the way, she had a gambling problem, folks, and so they're saying that she gambled the money away.
Let's see. Let's see if I can figure this out. Do you think she had a criminal history?
Ooh, now that's a good question. That's a very good question. I'm gonna say yes. Because the other thing that's really, really, to me, sketchy in this is they said that she was hired as a consultant in 2020. Why do you need a food services consultant? Like, you're still making the food. The only difference is they were delivering it to the children. So, what happened? Did somebody quit? Why would you need a food services consultant? And so, to that, I say, too, who did she know in the school district that got her the job?
Right. Because I don't know, can you work for a school if you've got a criminal history?
It depends on if they do a background check or not, because some places don't do background checks because they're deemed to be too expensive. They just tell you that you might, quote unquote, might be subject to a background check. So it's almost like security by ignorance. If we put the threat out there, then those who won't pass probably won't apply to begin with. Yeah, Stephanie, that's what I was saying. You should put the money into the community. Broke it down and figured out that it would help 100 minimum wage families for an entire year. That's the equivalent. Um,
Did she plead not guilty?
I didn't find that because now the update is from 2 days ago, and it's mostly talking about her sentencing. But let me take a look.
Because I think if she does not accept responsibility, which a non-guilty plea could be imposed that way, if she would have accepted
You're right.
responsibility, could have reduced it.
Guilty.
She pled guilty. Principle 31.
Interesting. I mean, what else are you going to plead at this point? That was,
Well, I'm just wondering, are we seeing such lower sentencing levels when we come across these, that she's actually at the levels that they suggest, that the U.S. suggests imposing? And that's why it seems weird to us.
It's a good point.
I think that's sometimes I
Very good
wonder.
point.
And now I'm looking at the guidelines and going, oh, and Rob dropped off. So does anybody have an idea approximately what her offense level would have been considered? Because I honestly think sometimes we see when they are sentenced or whatever that they're not. I know I've sat there and talked about how the offense levels or the sentencing guidelines that they've gotten seemed a little weak. And sometimes I wonder, now that I'm sitting here and thinking 9 years is kind of long, is that what the sentencing table would have given her? Hi, welcome back. Hey, everybody, welcome my surprise special guest, Robert Berry.
I tell you what, the internet has been interneting for me the last couple of weeks. So I tell you, so last week, Chat GPT went out on me for about an hour, maybe 2 hours. And I was like, what? And then this week I was using Midjourney to try and generate some images, and it went out on me. And I don't know if it's just the area that I'm in or what, but the internet has been interneting.
Yeah, I don't know. You've been ditching me quite a bit.
I am very special. Yeah.
I was just sitting here and saying, like, I wonder if, how I'm always like, oh, they should have longer. They should have longer. Are we used to seeing such lower sentences that she finally gets the sentence that is on the guidelines, and now we're like, this seems really excessive.
Yeah, it does. And then too, a lot of times they'll give leniency for things like age. So
I don't think she got that.
I'm guessing she didn't, because that's a substantial amount of time. It's kind of scary, but yeah, I don't have anything else to say about this one. I'm just completely shocked.
Jay, while he's gone, you can just wing it.
I mean, To
I
be
know.
fair, you could, because that's all I do is just wing it. By the way, Jay, when are you coming on, man? I'm gonna send you some invites. But yeah, I mean, I just wing it. Chicken wing it.
Chicken wing it. And every single time somebody says wing, there's like a song that pops in my head from when I was like in 7th grade and went to camp.
What song is that?
It drives my kids crazy when I sing it. A Pizza Hut, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and a Pizza Hut, McDonald's.
Never
Nobody ever heard
heard.
that? It's a
I have
camping
ne-
song.
Has anybody ever heard? I have never heard that.
Midwest kids camps, right?
I have never ever heard that.
Now
And
you're
now
gonna
that
have
I
to Google it.
well, now I can't unhear it.
Oh, there's more to it. But I won't kill the vibe.
Well,
Oh,
all
okay,
right.
we should get back to work, huh?
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about this story. I think if we talk about it anymore, we'll just sound like a bunch of chickens running around with their heads cut off. So,
We fried this story.
ooh.
I don't know if that was even funny.
Oh, yeah. I feel like we battered it and beat it to death. This is a well-seasoned story.
Oh man.
And at some point, I think maybe the judge had a bone to pick with the. Okay.
Made sure she didn't have a leg to stand on with that sentence.
She definitely did not. You know what I'm. Wait a minute. Hold on. Gosh darn it! I missed the prime opportunity here to tell these lame jokes and then just.
Oh,
And then I'm sure some people are getting angry right now, and they're just like,
why did the chicken get sent to jail?
I don't know why.
Because it was caught in a foul play.
I was gonna say because it clucked with the wrong person.
Oh.
Okay, this is.
I like your sound effects. We should use more of them. Yeah, time to fly the coop.
I should use more. I've been trying to put together my little soundboard. Yes, Shree, my reception is very bad. I don't know what to do about it. Been trying to get it together over here, but the internet is interneting. And Shree is on YouTube and saying it is bad. So what I'm gonna have to do is, I'm gonna have to upload the HD version of it so that it can look good on the internet. I don't know what's going on. So the internet is interneting.
Okay, this one might be it. I got to make sure I get this right. So I'm going to ask, why did the judge get in trouble for ending a sentence with a proposition? Oh, that was actually a bad joke. Never mind. That wasn't the joke I'm looking for. Oh my God. I think it was, why did the judge not get married? Because you can't end a sentence in a proposition. All right.
Okay.
I tried. Sorry.
So Jay says he'd be honored to be on, so we might have Jay on soon.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Hey, Jay, look, whenever you want me back in Springfield, man, I am ready to come. I had a blast there. I think this time we should do like an all-day session of learning from that audit guy. But, let me know what you're thinking. I can send you my course catalog and we can make it happen. By the way, while I have everyone's attention here, If you know of anyone who is not following me on LinkedIn, tell them to go and follow me. And here's why. I'm just so amazed at this. This is really blowing my mind. Right now, I have 19,970 followers, and I'm just a guy who talks about auditing. So that means I'm 30 away from 20,000. I, I just want to know what happens when you get to 20. Do you get like a prize, like confetti and cake, or like what? Is there something that happens?
Are you talking
And
about
I'm
on
really just
LinkedIn?
on LinkedIn. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's wild.
Like when we were at the fraud retreat, I'm not gonna lie, like you and Kelly and Joe are like, oh, we got like 500,000 followers. I'm like, I just checked. I'm at 597.
That's a good number.
It is. I'm just more connected on a one-on-one level.
There you go. There you
I'll
go.
just That'll be my excuse.
Well, I think though, so in as a whole, the actual follower count itself kind of doesn't matter, but kind of does matter, right? And it
Mhm.
does depend on the quality of the connections. But
Yes.
um, I believe, and I've been saying this for a while, in most professions, that this is what's going to happen. People are going to look at your LinkedIn profiles before they look at anything, and they're going to reach out to you for a job. As a matter of fact, I had two recruiters reach out to me this week and said, "Hey, we have these job roles. We've used LinkedIn to search for people, and you came up as a good match. After we looked at your profile, we really would like to talk to you." I think the days of putting out a job posting and getting 200 people to apply is over. People are more interconnected professionally now than we've ever been. And having a pretty strong LinkedIn profile is going to be important. And strong doesn't necessarily mean a ton of followers. It's just, do you have anything that showcases who you are and what you do so that people can kind of get to know you a little bit before they call you up?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if some of the messaging, like what I had for my current position, I don't know if having more followers and stuff helped or having more connections helped with that. Um, I do know I don't pay for LinkedIn. So I use the free version that's out there. But one of the positions that I did get that I received that a recruiter had reached out, and it was a person that worked at in the HR department at that company. Um, she was like, she had to go almost 10 pages in before she found me. And she was like, yeah, she's like, they had been hiring for it for a while. And she's like, I had to go so far, and you were the first person. And I think it's because I didn't pay for it, but I'm not going to pay for it. I don't know. Unless they give it to me for free for like a month, then I'll sit on it for a couple of weeks. And I got kids I gotta put into like probably further on. I gotta pay for like car insurance coming up. My daughter just turned 15 yesterday. I'm getting old. I gotta put more in retirement.
Well, it is pretty expensive now. I forgot what the price is, but I only pay like $9 a month because I'm on some old plan. Now, Stephanie said that she is open to opportunities. So, anybody that's out there who's looking for Stephanie, why don't you type in what kind of opportunities you are open for? Um, and so, anybody who's watching the replay, take a look at Stephanie's profile and click on it. I think, yeah, that's Stephanie.
Stephanie, what state do you live in? Yeah, you should ping me too, Stephanie. I can hook you up. I
Ooh,
can find somebody.
yeah. But this is how I predict the job market is going to go, especially for auditors. It is hard to find good auditors, but if you join a group and there are other auditors there, you start to throw out names, you start to come to live podcast and meet people and engage with people. I really do believe that it makes it a whole lot easier to hire. Shree said she hears a small violin playing in the background. Stephanie says she's in Idaho and she does AML investigations. So your bank probably could use someone doing anti-money laundering investigations.
We're not large enough yet. I've got a fraud specialist. I'm just trying to sit here and think. There might be a couple of larger credit unions that would have that. I'm just sitting here and thinking of some that would be open to potentially remote. So Stephanie, I'd definitely start looking at, I know Idaho, I feel like you guys have quite maybe you guys don't have that many state chartered. So I maybe would start looking at some of the larger federal chartered credit unions.
Yep. So now you're witnessing the magic of connection right now in real time.
I'll send you a couple to take a look at, Stephanie. And they're credit unions that if I would work for them. Or I have worked for them.
That's pretty awesome. I think that's a testament to the power of people, the collective power of people. So she said she misses being at a credit union for sure.
I think what I'm going to do is...
So you might be able to get back at a credit union.
Well, and
Gotta
I feel
love
like
it. I'm
in
telling
the
you.
Midwest are opening up to remote capabilities.
Yeah, I think most places should be. And I think that if you aren't, you're crazy and you're missing out on some really good opportunities to get really good talent. So
I'm just going to message you because I feel like if I keep talking about this, people are going to get like, oh, Christy, stop.
Well, on that note, anything else you want to say in parting words today?
I'm trying to think of something like cute and fancy and all that stuff, but like,
I think we beat all the bad jokes to death.
My brain is fried this week. That's the best I have.
Ooh, Marsha says more power to that audit guy for making the connection. I'm just the facilitator here. This is what I plan to do with our auditors, put us all in a community where we can just talk and help one another. But on that note, thank you guys for joining me on episode number 154. Well, that's just clucked up. And if you are just joining us, go back and listen from the beginning because you missed a pretty good episode, if I do say so myself. And Sonia says, hey, it was good seeing you two in person at the fraud retreat. Yeah, it was good seeing you two. First time joining online. Well, I think we should make this a weekly habit, but you kind of joined at the end too. We're about done now. All right, guys, we are not going to beat this dead chicken anymore. We'll see you next week.
Have a good one.